Good evening, folks. This is your ticker guy, Carl, coming at you from wonderful Niceville, Florida. Well, if you haven't seen this clip because you're getting it from the ticker, you need to go over to the description area on YouTube, look up the ticker and follow the link. There's a clip on there of Dennis Kneale and myself this evening going back and forth about the GDP report. I want to expand on it because I got about 4 words in edgewise. Actually, we had a very nice little discussion, other than the fact that he likes to talk over his guests and tries to make points that don't make any sense. Here's the facts, folks. GDP report this morning was horrible, was not good. The GDP from a consumer perspective, from a consumption perspective, was actually worse this quarter than last. I'm going to give you the math right here in a format where I can't be talked over so you can actually understand it. The prior quarter GDP was revised down to negative 6.4%. We reported 1% negative. That was down 9/10 from the report that was issued before. So we have to take that off. So we're now at negative 1.9 because we're working from a different benchmark, not the place where we were last quarter as reported. All right, so we're negative 1.9. Now here's the important thing. The government last quarter decreased spending by 4.3%. That's spending and investment. That came out of GDP. The government is 30% of the economy. Consumption is 70% of the economy, approximately. So we had 4.3% decline in government spending. That means that about 1 1/3% gets added back into GDP for first quarter because the government cut back its spending. Remember, we're trying to come up with a consumer number here. We're trying to figure out what's going on in the real economy, not what the government's throwing money around in, but what's really going on with you and your wallet, all right? So we'll take that 5.3% and we'll add 1.3 to that. We get negative 4. All right, now we're at negative 1.9 for quarter two. But we increased by 10.9% on the government side. 30% of that is about 3.3. So 1.9 plus 3.3 is what, ladies and gentlemen? A little over 5, huh? Well, guess what? That happens to be about the same, a little bit worse, but not much, than what we had for first quarter. Those are the facts, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to what really went on here. The real contraction in the economy that matters to you. That is, your ability to spend, the output of goods and services that you produce and buy, went down by a little bit more in the second quarter than it did in the first. The only reason that we printed a negative 1% number is that the government went out and borrowed a whole ton of money and blew it. How much? Well, this last week, $200 billion. Well, that's not unusual. You'd expect it, in fact. Let's face the facts. We're a $13 trillion economy. And if the government is going to be 30%, that's about $3 trillion. Hey, guess what? That's about how much they're spending, right? 3.6. Well, tax receipts are way down, so they have to go out and borrow all this cash in order to spend it. But should that really count? Has my income, my wealth increased if I go to the bank, take out my credit card, and get a $30,000 loan as a cash advance against my plastic? Of course not. And yet that's how the government adds up what they call GDP. So what I always look at is, what's the consumer? What is the rest, the real economy? You, everybody else, all the businesses out there. You know, the people who have to go buy those cars, the people who buy groceries, people who put gasoline in their cars, people who buy houses, folks who get on cruise ships and go take vacations, all of that, those of you that get up every day and go to work, that's the impact that I look for. Not whether the government is sucking off a teat, which happens to be Chinese for that matter, and then turns around and hands out money to try to prop up the economy. You see, that only works for a certain amount of time. Go run your credit cards up, never pay the bill, and see how long it lasts. Eventually the card company cuts you off. Well, it'll happen here too if we don't stop it. Now let's talk about the markets. The market cheered this, but the Forex traders figured out what was going on pretty quickly. The dollar got shellacked today, and this is a big part of the reason why. Guys that trade currencies aren't the dumb people in the room. It's the fools that are in the equity markets. That would be, unfortunately, you, they hope. Don't be the fool. In 2001, we had the same song being sung by all the media pundits. The recession is over. The market has bottomed. Right after 9/11 in October, remember? The market was down at the lows and it came roaring back straight up. And oh boy, CNBC was pumping it every single night that everything is wonderful, it's going to be roses and beautiful times again. And if you bought at the top, you lost another 30%. After you lost 30% coming down from the top in the first place. So your combined losses were now 60% of your money. Many people were totally wiped out. Yeah, if you sat through it, you might have been okay eventually, but you gave up half your gains doing this. Don't be a sucker, folks. I don't see anything here in this report that gives me hope about the economy. Do I believe we'll print a positive third quarter report? Yes. Why? Because inventories got drawn down again, which, by the way, was another thing that they predicted wouldn't happen. We were all told inventories were going to build this quarter. That was where the predictions of a possible positive GDP surprise came from. That turned out to be BS. The market will rise until people in the equity markets figure it out. Until they actually look at the numbers and get it through their head that the economy is not getting any better, and the only reason that we haven't totally collapsed is because the government's been spending like a drunken sailor. But once that realization hits, if the real economy has not recovered by that point in time, you're going to see major new lows in the indices. And there's a very high probability that even if it does, just like in 2001, remember folks, the recession officially ended, according to the NBER, shortly after the 9/11 attacks. But the market didn't make its final low until 2002, and it was retested in 2003. Do you really want to buy a rally of 60% off the bottom when the GDP has actually declined in the consumer and real space quarter over quarter for the second quarter, and you've been told it hasn't? How long will it take, folks? We'll see. I'm your ticker guy, and that's my opinion.